Of the many different aspects of being an INTJ, there is one in particular that seems to always be glossed over like a clear piece of glass. I have heard it described as a shaman-like power, and yet in practice, it tends to be ignored when employed at its intended target. Today, I am talking about the INTJ's power to predict the future. Let's meditate on it together, shall we? Om. But before we get started, I predict that you will hit that subscribe button so that this channel can grow beyond the ties of this mortal realm. When researching this topic, it became very apparent very quickly that nobody wanted to talk about this subject, and the reason why is because they just don't want to talk about it. Now, that doesn't stop me though, now does it? We are going to cover a few points. The first is what this power of prediction really is. The second being how it actually works. And the third, why it seems like no one listens. Now I say seems like very specifically because there are those who actually do listen. Let's start with that last one first. Now, if you watched my last video, then you already know where I'm coming from. INTJs and INFJs are introverted intuitive dominants. Now, this means that introverted intuition, NI, is their dominant language, their primary language. In reality, these, even though they're dominant, are still introverted functions, meaning they're not readily displayed outward for the rest of the world to see. Because of this, what the world is actually seeing as their forms of communication are their secondary functions, which are extroverted thinking and extroverted feeling. To really drive home this point, INTJs and INFJs personality types combined make up less than 4% of the entire world's population. That's right, less than 4% of the entire world's population is either INTJ or INFJ, speaking of primary cognitive function language of NI. If you combine this fact with the fact that INTJs and INFJs are heard primarily in their secondary language, then it's a wonder that anyone in the entire world listens to us at all. Okay, we've set the groundwork that not a lot of people are really going to be listening to begin with. No wonder I don't feel like a human most of the time. So let's go ahead and move on to that next point of what this power of prediction really is. And I can answer this really simply with just 2 words: introverted intuition. You see, NI is always looking for patterns. When an NI dominant goes out into the world, whether it's talking to someone, just going for a walk, whatever, their brain, their computer is always being fed with new information that it is trying to sift through then and look for different patterns. This is a big part of the reason NI dominants need breaks from the world, as well as the reason why we stay away from crowds at parties. Our brains are looking for those patterns. They're looking for the patterns in what the people are wearing, what they're talking about, what's going on around us, and it's comparing those with the other relevant information that's already inside our brains, looking for matches for things that line up as to what will then happen because of these things going on. Before I go further, let's set up an example with Mark here. Now, Mark just had this really big fight with his girlfriend, and he comes and tells me all about what happened in the whole situation. As he's talking to me, my brain starts to look for patterns in what he is saying. It then is going to compare that information with how I know Mark is from the past and what I know about similar situations. As those patterns start to form, they get translated by my secondary function, which is TE, extroverted thinking. Now let me tell you something about TE. It really loves to be efficient. It wants to get this done and over with and resolved fast. For our example though, Mark really loves his girlfriend, but he also loves to eat cold pizza every day of the week, which is what their fight was about. Mark loves to do that, but his girlfriend thinks it's unhealthy, which, let's face it, it really is. Knowing this, I tell Mark that it really is unhealthy, and I point out scientific reasons why. I also tell Mark that if he's going to do it anyways, he should at least do it in moderation. Otherwise, he's going to not only lose his girlfriend, he's going to get fat. This sounds ridiculous to Mark, who just goes ahead and continues to eat cold pizza every day for breakfast, ultimately gaining 200 pounds and losing his girlfriend to a guy who only eats cold pizza once a week. Sorry, Mark, but you really had that coming. As ridiculous as that example was, it is really straightforward. No one under normal circumstances would eat cold pizza every day for breakfast. If you had a super high metabolism, then maybe you could get away with it, but there again, I digress then. The point is, Mark could not see the pattern emerging. He was more interested in the taste of the cold pizza than compromising and keeping his health and his girlfriend. Now, there is one good thing to keep in mind. The power of prediction is not perfect, but it's best put this way. The more an NI dominant is exposed to all the different patterns in the world, the better and more refined their ability to make accurate predictions becomes. For another example, let's say you're looking for a book at your local bookstore. Would you go to the romance section though for a Stephen King book? The answer, of course, is no, because he is an author of horror books. But what about someone that doesn't already know that? They could very well look through the entire store before eventually finding one of his books. Perhaps they would start with a single section, seeing that it's in alphabetical order, and go straight for the K's. Thereby they could go section by section using this method. This process I just described is how the prediction process works. Looking for the patterns in how the books are arranged to ultimately find the desired outcome. The major difference in all of this is that the prediction process is handled unconsciously in the NI dominant's mind. Back before the widespread use of technology and the advancement of civilization, this ability was probably regarded highly. Nowadays though, with the advent of social media, the ability is being drowned out by a sea of noise as people listen less to quiet rationale and more to the rampant emotions that are being blasted at them every second. On that note, I have an announcement to make. I'm going to start live streaming every Friday here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, the reason why is because life has become very busy and my upload schedule has taken a dive because of it. But what I'd like to do for these live streams is for 1 hour from 8 p.m. Eastern Time to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, be able to sit down, relax, chill with all of you, chat, and answer questions. Maybe play some games. Now, if this is something you'd be interested in, let me know by dropping a comment in the comment section or just joining me when the live streams start on Fridays. And if you live outside the United States and want to join in on these live streams but the times don't work for you, let me know. I may open up more times in the future. Thank you though so much for watching this video, and as always, don't forget to stay cool and have fun.